Ever feel like your imagination's got a bit of jet lag? Like it's struggling to keep up in a world where AI is pushing boundaries faster than ever?
Yeah.
You're not alone. We're diving into Lydia Kostopoulos' Sept-11 Imagination Dilemma, a
Yeah.
book that tackles this very tension. We'll uncover why this dilemma matters to you, explore how it's showing up in everything from tech to our sense of self,
Sure.
and hopefully leave you with a few aha moments along the way.
What's crucial to understand is that Kostopoulos isn't just talking about, daydreaming. She's talking about the ability to envision what could be, to make decisions when the path ahead is foggy, to untangle problems that seem impossible.
Right.
These are the imaginative muscles we'll need in this era of accelerating change.
It's like we've gone from zero to metaverse in what feels like 5 minutes.
Right.
So where do we even start?
Well, Kostopoulos argues that we're already facing a significant imagination dilemma. Technology empowers us in incredible ways, but the sheer speed of its evolution and the scale of the global challenges we face, they can make imagining the future feel like a Herculean task.
Okay, that makes sense. But do we have any real-world examples of this?
Yeah.
Besides feeling like we need a degree in quantum physics just to understand the latest iPhone update?
Well, look at Kodak. They actually invented the digital camera, but they completely missed its revolutionary potential. They were so focused on their existing business model, on what was familiar and comfortable,
Right.
that they failed to ask the crucial what-if questions. They didn't grasp that digital wasn't just a different type of photo, it was a fundamental shift in how we capture and share memories.
That's a cautionary tale if I've ever heard one. And, it makes you wonder, what other Kodak moments might be lurking just around the corner?
And the thing is, this resistance to change, this fear of the new, it's not a new phenomenon. Kostopoulos highlights how in the 15th century, scribes called the printing press a whore. They saw it as a threat to their livelihood, to their entire way of life.
Wow, so those scribes weren't too different from someone today who might be wary of AI, right?
Exactly. That fear is understandable, but we can't let it paralyze us. The key is to recognize it and then use it as fuel for imagination, not as a barrier to progress.
Okay, that's a great point. But let's be real. It's not just about adapting to new technology, is it? It's like we're living in this constant state of polycrisis,
Yeah.
to use a term Kostopoulos throws around.
Right.
Climate change, economic uncertainty, social divisions. It feels like the world is constantly on edge. How can we even begin to imagine a positive future when we're surrounded by so much negativity?
You've hit on a really important point. This constant state of crisis mode can be incredibly draining on our imaginative faculties.
Yeah.
When our brains are wired for survival, for putting out fires, it's tough to access that mental space where creativity and innovation thrive.
So how do we break free from that cycle?
That's where Kostopoulos gets really interesting. She argues that we need to look deeper to understand the very building blocks of imagination itself.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's dive into those building blocks, shall we? So we're talking about the building blocks of imagination.
Right.
Where does Kostopoulos take us from here?
Well, Kostopoulos breaks down imagination into 4 key areas: identity, convergence, humanity, and dreams.
Okay.
And she explores how each of these areas is being shaped by the rapid advancements in technology we're seeing today.
Okay, let's unpack these, starting with identity.
Yeah.
It feels like technology is constantly changing how we present ourselves to the world, how we connect with each other, even how we form relationships.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
It's a profound shift, and one that Kostopoulos argues has huge implications for our sense of self. Consider platforms like DressX,
Okay.
where you can create an entire digital wardrobe for your online persona.
Right.
It might seem superficial, but it raises important questions about how we construct our identities in virtual spaces. Is our digital self an extension of our real self, or is it something entirely different?
It's like that whole metaverse thing, right? You can be whoever you want. Be a rock star, an astronaut, even a talking cat.
Exactly.
But it does make you think, if we can constantly reinvent ourselves online, what does that mean for our sense of self in the real world?
And it goes even deeper than that. Kostopoulos points to the rise of AI companions,
Okay.
like those offered by Replica.
Yeah.
People are forming deep emotional connections with these AI chatbots, even romantic relationships in some cases.
Okay, that's where it starts to feel like an episode of Black Mirror. But I can see where Kostopoulos is going with this. It speaks to a very real need for connection, for intimacy that many people are struggling with in an increasingly digital world.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of examining our human needs and values as we design and integrate new technologies into our lives.
So identity in the age of technology is a complex issue, to say the least.
Yeah.
What about convergence? Kostopoulos talks about this a lot.
Convergence refers to the merging of once distinct technologies at an unprecedented rate.
Right.
It's creating incredible opportunities for innovation, but it also requires a new way of thinking, a way to wrap our heads around the exponential possibilities and potential consequences.
Do you have an example of this that might resonate with, say, a sports fan?
Absolutely. Think about how AI, digital twins, and virtual reality are transforming the world of sports.
Yep.
You can now experience a game from the perspective of your favorite player, track their biometrics in real time, even interact with virtual fans from around the world. It's creating immersive experiences that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
It's like the whole game is becoming a video game, except you're actually a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty mind-blowing, but I can see how it might be overwhelming trying to keep up with all of these advancements.
This is where second-order thinking comes in, a concept Kostopoulos emphasizes throughout the book.
Okay.
It's not just about understanding a new technology, it's about anticipating its ripple effects, the less obvious consequences, both positive and negative.
So it's like looking beyond the initial splash to see the waves it creates further down the line.
Precisely. For example, while personalized sports experiences are exciting, second-order thinking encourages us to consider the potential downsides, such as data privacy concerns, the widening gap between those who have access to these technologies and those who don't, and the potential for these immersive experiences to create a disconnect from the real world.
So with convergence, it's not just about keeping up with the Joneses in terms of the latest gadgets. It's about thinking critically about the long-term impact of these technologies on our lives and on society as a whole.
Exactly. And this leads us to Kostopoulos' next facet of imagination, humanity.
This feels especially important now. Like, with all this talk about AI, it's easy to get caught up in the hype and forget that there's a human element to all of this.
Precisely. As technology becomes more powerful, it's crucial to remember what makes us human. What are our core values? How can we ensure that those values are reflected in the future we're creating, a future increasingly shaped by technology?
It's like we have to make a conscious effort to stay grounded, to not let the technology dictate our values.
Yeah, exactly. Kostopoulos reminds us that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
Yeah.
She gives the example of Icon, a company using 3D printing to create affordable and sustainable housing, particularly for those displaced by climate change.
Okay.
They are leveraging cutting-edge technology to solve a very human problem, and that's a powerful testament to the potential of human-centered design.
That's a great example of how technology can be a force for good. But how do we ensure we're using our own imaginations to steer technology in the right direction? It can feel like such a massive, complex landscape to navigate.
This is where Kostopoulos introduces the concept of first principles thinking. It's about stripping away all the assumptions and complexities and getting down to the fundamental truths of a problem.
Okay.
It helps you cut through the noise and make decisions that are truly human-centered.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but can you give me an example of what that might look like in practice?
Absolutely. Imagine you're trying to solve the problem of traffic congestion in a city.
Okay.
First principles thinking would encourage you to ask, what is the fundamental purpose of transportation? Why do people need to move around? It's about getting to the core of the issue rather than getting bogged down in pre-existing solutions or assumptions.
So instead of just assuming we need more roads or faster cars, first principles thinking encourages us to question the very nature of the problem we're trying to solve.
Exactly. And that can lead to more innovative and ultimately more human-centered solutions. Solutions that prioritize people and their needs rather than just blindly embracing the latest technology.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together. We've talked about identity, convergence, and humanity. What about dreams? Where do they fit into all of this? So we've covered identity, convergence, and humanity, all these fascinating facets of imagination that are being shaped by technology. But what about dreams? Where do they fit into this equation?
Well, Kostopoulos argues that dreams are the fuel that powers true innovation. They provide the spark, the ambition, the willingness to push beyond the boundaries of what's currently possible.
It's like that saying, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Exactly. Kostopoulos uses the example of Jeff Bezos. His childhood dream of space travel ultimately led to the creation of Amazon
Right.
as a way to fund that dream, and then, of course, to Blue Origin.
Yeah.
It shows how a seemingly impossible dream can be a driving force for incredible innovation.
It's a powerful reminder that even in this age of instant gratification and rapid technological advancement, it's still important to hold on to those big, audacious dreams.
Absolutely. And it's not just about individual dreams.
Right.
Kostopoulos highlights companies like Dreamscape Immersive who are creating these mind-bending VR experiences. They've created an alien zoo, for example, that pushes the boundaries of entertainment and education.
Wow.
It's a testament to the power of collective dreaming, of using technology to bring to life experiences that were once relegated to the realm of science fiction.
It's all incredibly exciting, but I have to admit, this whole conversation about AI's role in imagination has me a bit, well, uneasy. It's like, if AI can create art, music, even write stories, what does that mean for human creativity? Are we becoming obsolete?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Kostopoulos dives headfirst into this very tension, particularly when it comes to the concept of agentic imagination.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. Agentic imagination. What exactly does that mean?
It refers to the idea of AI systems developing their own imagination, their own capacity to generate ideas and create things independently without human input. We're already seeing early glimpses of this with AI composing music, writing poetry, even generating realistic images from simple text prompts.
Okay, I see where you're going with this, and it's both fascinating and a little terrifying. So what does this agentic imagination mean for us? Do we fight it, embrace it?
Kostopoulos argues that it's not about seeing AI as a competitor to human creativity, but rather as a potential collaborator. It's about figuring out how we can work alongside these increasingly sophisticated AI systems, leveraging their capabilities to enhance our own creative potential.
So instead of thinking of it as humans versus AI, it's more like humans with AI.
Exactly. Imagine an architect using AI to generate thousands of design variations, exploring possibilities they might never have considered on their own. Or a musician using AI as a musical sparring partner, bouncing ideas off of each other to create something entirely new.
That's a much more optimistic way of looking at it, but it still feels like we're on the cusp of something massive, something unknown. It's hard not to feel a little overwhelmed by it all. What advice does Kostopoulos offer for navigating this uncertain future?
Kostopoulos leaves us with a powerful thought. When technology can do everything for you, what is left is imagination. The future is not something that happens to us, it's something we create.
Okay.
And the key to shaping that future, to navigating this complex and rapidly changing landscape, is to cultivate our own imagination.
So what does that look like in practice? How do we cultivate our imagination in a world that often feels like it's moving at warp speed?
It's about staying curious, asking what-if questions, and embracing the unknown. It's about looking for connections between seemingly disparate ideas, experimenting with new tools and technologies, and not being afraid to fail. It's about remembering that the most powerful tool we have for shaping the future is the one that resides within each of us, our own boundless capacity for imagination.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. A big thank you to you and to Lydia Kostopoulos for taking us on this deep dive into the world of imagination in the age of AI. It's certainly given us a lot to think about. And to you, listening, what will you imagine today? We'll leave you with that thought-provoking question as we wrap up this deep dive.